Sanbonan, good evening, and thanks everyone for coming. It's a pleasure for me to be standing in front of you and talking to some of you who have bought the book, read it, have a lot of questions to ask, and I'm here to answer some of them, if not all of them. I don't know where to start, but I will just try and take you back to where I come from. I come from a village with no tar road somewhere in Bushbuck, it's called Sbambayan. That's where I was born many moons ago. And because I grew up like, I can say like maybe radical, so to speak, or I fell in love with writing when I was very young, you know. I wrote my first song when I was 11 years old. And my friends and colleagues encouraged me to write more. And from there, I graduated from writing songs to writing poetry. But I didn't know much about politics until I was in, I don't know what they call it, the grade, I was standard 8. Standard 6, standard 7. There was this classmate of mine who was coming from Soweto. It was very interesting, you know. For us in the village, we are told that we have to go to school in order for us to come and work in Johannesburg. And there was this guy from Johannesburg who came to the village, which was an irony of some kind. And we were like surprised, you know. And then one day I sat down with him and asked him a lot of questions about why he came down to the village with no running water, no electricity, no luxury that he's used to in Johannesburg. And then he sort of like opened up my eyes and he told me about politics. And he said, you know, my friend, politics forced me out of Soweto to this place. That was the first time I heard the word politics. I didn't even know what it meant. And so he tried to explain to me in a nutshell what was happening in the country at that point in time. Explained to me about apartheid, about the ANC, about the leaders when and Robben Island, leaders were in exile, leaders were killed. He sort of shared with me some of the stuff that he had from Johannesburg. And then I fell in love with politics from that age. I dedicated my life into the struggle for the liberation of this country, young as I was. At a later stage, I was about 17, 18, I was recruited as a runner for the ANC. Actually, my job was very simple. For me, I would go and meet an MK soldier, collect the guns from him, go and keep them in my house. Someone else will come and collect the guns from my house and take them elsewhere. So the guns were coming from the border in Mozambique, and so it happened that some snitch told the police about what I was doing and what was my role at the point in time. And I got arrested. Police came to my house, they ransacked the house, they turned everything upside down. They were looking for guns, but they couldn't find them. The guns were in their house. Basically, after collecting the guns, I'll dismantle them because I was taught how to dismantle them. I'll dismantle them and put them inside the stove. There was a welcome Dover stove at the corner of the house. We took out everything inside the stove. It was empty. So dismantle the guns, put them inside the stove and put the pots on top. So police look at the stove, they saw the pot, they thought, no, the stove is working. They didn't look inside. And it saved me because the case was thrown out because my lawyer, at the time, it was Frans Lehod, who's now a constitutional court judge. He said to the magistrate, you know, I need to see the evidence. You say my client is a gun runner, but I don't see any guns here in this court. So therefore, we cannot keep him inside. And the case was thrown out, and my love for politics grew from that point, you know, because I mean, at the time, there were no really platforms where you be taught politics and all sort of stuff like that. It was only bushes where you go to the bushes and meet these guys and discuss these issues, and they go home, and you didn't know who to trust because people, they were scared, and people were selling other people. We had people who were selling other comrades, and some comrades were killed because they were sold out by the same guys they hope and believed that they're on their side, but they were on this other side. One day after April 27, 1994, I went to the guy who was my ultimate commander during the struggle, who happens to be Matthew Sposa, and I said to him, Chief, I think our job is done. We got the freedom that we've been fighting for all these years, but now I want to start some other kind of freedom. I want to be on the other side of the fence. I want to monitor you guys when you're in office. Make sure that you're doing everything that you promised our people during all these years, during the struggle. And I want to be a journalist so I can keep you guys in check. We had a long debate about this whole thing. He was saying, no, don't do that. Can you have a job in the government? I'm the premier and you can come and work in my office and all of that. And I said, no, I don't want to work in your office. I just want to be a journalist. That's what I want to do. And that's what, for me, that's what has got meaning to me, to being a journalist and being the voice of the people, the eyes of the public, So I became a journalist. I started at Witbank News in Witbank, and I moved to Nelspruit to join African Eye. In between, my brother and I started our own newspaper. It didn't go anywhere. We didn't have so much resources and stuff like that. I went to African Eye to join African Eye News Service in Nelspruit, and from there I moved to Johannesburg to join the Sunday Times on the 1st of January 1999. So it happened that the 1st of January was on a Friday, and I didn't come to work because I said it's the 1st of January, it's a holiday. So on Saturday, I was on holiday somewhere in Kruger, somewhere it was called Bunda Maria on the Far North. I received a phone call from the then editor of the Sunday Times, Mr. Mike Robinson, and said to me, where are you? I said, I'm on holiday. He said, you're supposed to be at work. I said, but it's a Saturday today. He said, yes, even though it's a Saturday, but tomorrow people are expecting the Sunday Times to be on the street. So that's how discipline was installed to me, and say, this is how things are done. You don't do things your way, you do things according to. So I came to Joburg. I stayed at the hostel in Soweto because I didn't have accommodation. It was very interesting, yeah, I must say. I mean, staying in this room, there were, 7 of us in one room. Everyone had his own radio, and everyone tried to outshine the other person. Everyone would check the volume, the other would come and put his higher. And there was one guy was from Eastern Cape, one was from Lesotho, there was one guy from Venda, there were 3 of us were from Bushbuckridge, so it was Shangani, Venda, Sotho, Xhosa. So it was whole noise, pollution, and all of that. It kind of helped me understand what some of our brothers went through, them staying in the hostel for years and years. I stayed there for I think about 2 to 3 weeks, but it taught me a lot, about life, and it taught me a lot about apartheid, when men were taken away from their wife and kids and be dumped there. You're not allowed, your wife is not allowed to come and visit you. Your own kids are not even allowed to come and visit their dad, which for many years it was like that. And it was a schooling for me, and I learned from that, So over the years as a journalist, and I started writing for the Sunday Times, people have been asking me and say, why can't you write a book about what you're doing as a journalist, For me, it was like, nah, man, there's nothing, everything, people know the stories, they've read them and all of that. And until, like, I was on holiday on, it was December 2012. After all this, like, people have been putting me under pressure, so we went there to Mozambique to have a look at the statue of King Ngunyane. So I was explaining to my kids, you see, that the family tree, what King Ngunyane means to me, because he's like, my mother is from that family, like I explained to them where it started and all of that. And my kids were like, yeah, I see, because this thing is not documented, that's why we don't know about this. You have to take us to come and see the statue and all of that. So it kind of rang a bell to me that, people have been asking me all these years to say, I must write and document things so they can know about what happened and all of that. So December 2012, I decided there and then that I'm gonna write a book. So I tweeted that I'm gonna write this book. And when we arrived from Mozambique, I think it was the 5th of January, I received about, because I was not roaming, there was about 5 messages from one number that I didn't even know. So, like, please call me, we need to meet, please call me, we need to meet. And like, I don't even know this person, and we'll see. So shortly after my phone was up and running, probably he set up that if the message is delivered, he'll know that I'm available. He called me and then he said, we need to meet. And then I said, what is it about? He said, let's meet tomorrow. So I met a guy, I said, people are worried. I said, why people are worried? He said, no, we saw your tweets that you are writing a book. And there are certain things that we really don't want in your book. And then I said, wow, who's we? So he didn't want to tell me who's we, and he just said, but there are certain things we don't want to see in your book. And I said, listen, this book is about my life story, things that happened, things that I've seen, things I've witnessed, things I went through. This is my life story, and I'm gonna tell it the way it is. Whether we doesn't like it, whether we like it, I don't care. So I started writing the book like around about, like when I came back from holiday, I already had a sketch of how the book will be and all of that from chapter 1 to chapter 20. The reason I had the book up to chapter 20 was because 2014 was the 20-year anniversary of our freedom, so I had to put it that way. So I started writing the book, and I didn't even have a publisher. So one day I phoned Frederick de Jager at the Penguin, and I said, I need to see you. He said, what is it about? I said, it's about my book. He said, are you writing a book? I said, yeah. So I went there and I told them I'm writing this book, and I want to write it the way I want to, and if they accept that they're going to publish it, it's not going to be censored. And then he said to me, are you going to get us as Penguin in trouble or not? I said, if telling the truth is getting you into trouble, then you'll be in trouble, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to publish the truth about my life. It's my life story, what I went through, what I've observed, what I've seen, and all of that. So we started negotiating the contract, and I told them that I want the book to be published on the 4th of August, which was the 4th year anniversary of my controversial arrest. Some of you remember I was arrested on the 4th of August in 2010. So I started writing the book, and I said to myself, what must I tell the people out there? And I said, people don't want to know what's my shoe size. They don't want to know whether I'm sleeping on a queen bed or a 3/4 bed. They want to know how I travel, my journey from Bushbuckridge to Johannesburg, what I went through as a journalist, some of the stories I've done, how I've uncovered some of the things, the process, the things that happen behind the scenes, because at the end of the day, people are buying the newspaper on Sunday. They don't know how many clubs I've got during the week, just to get a story there. And so it was that kind of decision that I'll put less of my personal life in the book, but I'll put more about my professional life in the book. So I decided that I'll make chapter 2. That will be the only chapter will have my personal information, where I come from, who are my parents or my brothers and all of that. And the rest of the book will be about my professional journey as a journalist. So I had to do that, and I have to decide which stories I have to revisit, to tell in the book, because there's so many stories since 1999 to 2014. There were so many stories that I've done, uncovered, and all of that. So, and the brief from Penguin was that we want this book to be 250 pages, and in 250 pages I would have captured everything. So I started asking some of my colleagues at work. I said, which story do you think I must put in this book? I asked my friends and all of that. So I started from there to decide to tell stories from African Eye, Sunday Times, how I started. Actually, my first assignment at Sunday Times, I worked with Michael Smith. It was very interesting. I came there, I was told to go to Jamestown Court to cover a court case. And I came back from the court, it was on a Friday, and my boss said to me, there's a student who showed his lectures at Mzilikazi outside Proverbial, and I want you guys to go there with Michael. And I was like, but I don't even have toiletry bag, I don't even have clothes. He said, no, don't worry, we'll give Michael the money, so the following day we'll get the stuff. So we go to Mzilikazi, and we're like, we left late on Friday. Then we go to the college the following Saturday. We find there were a lot of journalists, and they're like, they've scooped us. We're like giving up. They've got everything, and so my journalistic instinct told me that okay, since everyone has crowded the admin block, speaking to whoever is there, just go around the campus. So I started walking around the campus. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Just walking around, and then in one classroom I saw a woman crying, and then I walked in there and I asked, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "It's my boyfriend who killed the lecturers." And that's how we got the scoop. We're the only one who spoke to her. Again, it's like, as a journalist, there is a competition out there, You're competing with some of the greatest, some of the best. And for you to be in the same league with them, you need to prove yourself, And then you don't prove yourself by doing the same thing that they are doing. You prove yourself by doing something better than what they are doing. And that's what I decided to do when I came to the Sunday Times. I was like, these guys are veterans, they've been here for years and stuff like that. What is it that I have to do completely different from everyone? I remember the first story that I big investigation that I did for the Sunday Times was a slave trade. Basically, when I moved to Joburg, my wife at the time was left in Nelspruit, so she would come to Joburg and then go back, and then she took my car down to Joburg. So I decided to take a taxi down to Nelspruit to go and fetch the car. So I was in this taxi, and there were about 6-7 guys that started drinking and stuff. I don't drink, so which really helped me a lot, to get more stories. So they started drinking. Along the way, they started talking about how they They bought their ID books from Home Affairs at Market Street and Harrison Street, and they were all from Mozambique. So I'm sitting there listening to all this stuff, you know. So on Tuesday I go to my boss, I say, I was in this text, you know, these guys are talking about how they bought their ID books and stuff like that. And my boss said, man, they were drunk, you know. I said, no, but yeah, as much as I know they were drunk, but I want to give this a test. He said, fine. So I went to Home Affairs. Sorry. Let me go back before I go there. While I was at African Eye, I received a press release. It was sent to all journalists. The press release said there was a minibus taxi that overturned at about 4 a.m. All passengers died. And all passengers except the driver were foreign national. So everyone just recycled the story and put it like it is. The minibus taxi overturned, killing all passengers. All of them were foreign nationals. So what I did was, one day I went to Komatipoort police station where the rep of the taxi was kept. I took down the reg number of the taxi because I needed to find out who owns that taxi and why was that driver, where was he going with 20 passengers at 4 a.m.? Who was he running from, you know? So, and after running down the reg number, some of my friends, my police friends, they told me that it's owned by a guy called John Joseph Nkula. And I started asking, who's he? They said to me, he's a slave trader, modern day slave trader. Basically, he'll go to Mozambique, Swaziland, and pick up all people and promise them jobs here in South Africa, you know. They will literally sell you, you will work, more especially the RDP, the guys who are building the first set of RDP houses. You work there, at month end you'll come and collect half of your salary because he owns you. He traded you to the building constructor and stuff like that. And you'll sell those who didn't have like building skills to the farmers around Nelspruit and all of them. So also I wanted to find out how this guy is operating, you know. So when I joined Sunday Times, I told my boss then was Jocelyn Mack. I said, you know, when I was at African Eye, there was this story, you know, but I couldn't follow it up because African Eye couldn't send me to Mozambique to go and investigate this stuff. So my boss said, but it is dangerous. I said, yeah, of course, it is dangerous, you know. The issue is, I remember a long time ago, when I told my grandfather I want to be an investigative journalist, he asked me a question. He said, let me ask you a question, and if you answer it correctly, then I know you're going to be an investigative journalist. He said, there's a lion, there's a gun, and there's a knife. Which one is the best weapon to kill the lion? And I said, obviously it's the gun. He said, oh, only cowards will use the gun. A brave man will take the knife and go and stab that lion to death. And if you really want to be an investigative journalist, you must take the knife and stab that lion to death. That's when you prove your point. So I grew up with that mentality when I became an investigative journalist, and that's how I was trying to get the knife, go and kill the lion, not to take the gun. So I set up on a journey to Mozambique to go and find out about how this guy operates, this slave trader. I took out all my oldest clothes, I wear them, and I liaised with the guy, the police officer who was investigating this guy, who arrested him several times, and he paid as admission of fine guilty, you know, and they let him go and stuff like that. He drove me all the way to Komatipoort and left me by the border, and I walked over to Rosana Gracia, the first border, the first town in Mozambique. And I started asking around, I'm looking for a job in South Africa, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, go to the place in Maputo, this guy is gonna. I went there, I was recruited, I was taken to a safe house. Now the whole process, and at night, we're taken from the safe house, we're forced to jump the fence over to South Africa. So, and then we're taken to another safe house in Tonga. Then we're all called one by one to the house, to the main house. You stand by the wall, they ask you, what's your name, what's your skills, Do you know how to do this and all of that? And then they also ask you to strip because they want to check if you're not carrying like diamond or whatever and stuff like that. So when it was my turn, they asked me to strip. I had a very big problem because I had my passport, my ID, and some cash stuck in my underwear, you know. So the guy said, strip, and I said, do you want the money? I do have the money. So I like, okay, I give him the money. He said, you still have to strip. And I resisted stripping because I knew I'll bust it, you know. I've got my passport. The money was enough for me to take a taxi or a bus all the way to Johannesburg. And so they pinned me down, they stripped me naked, my passport and the ID fell off, and the guy went berserk. He went outside, he picked up a whole handler, he came and just smashed. Like he asked me, who are you? Why are you here? And I said, no, I'm a police officer, underground police, doing an investigation of cross-border prostitution. He said, yeah, it's fine. You cross here the border with the 17 guys, there's no woman here. So what's the cross-border prostitution you're investigating? They beat me up, and I think by then they thought like I was broken and all of that. And they put me in the back of this car. There were two guys with AK-47, and there were two guys they had to sell in the nearest farm. So first went to the farm, they dropped the two guys, they told to the farm, and they told him they're gonna come at end to collect the money, and they started driving. I didn't know where we were going. We stopped at the gate. I could remember because they were talking to someone at the gate, and I could pick up that it was the Kruger National Park gate, the Malelani gate. After that, they drove, and then they stopped. And then he stopped and he came back and said, get out, you dog. And he threw my bag that I was carrying with my stuff. At first, I thought maybe because these guys are carrying AK-47s, they will shoot me from a distance. So I stood there, I watched the car like driving slowly, disappear, and it was gone. So now I had to start walking. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know whether west, north from south. So I just pick up whatever, I started dressing up and I started walking. And then I just started seeing springboks, zebras, and all of that. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Now these guys, they've just dumped me in the middle of Kruger National Park for lions and leopards to finish what they were afraid to do. So I started walking, and then after some time, I could hear that from that direction there are cars. That point, so I walked until I got to the fence, and the fence is this side. But because I jumped it the day before, so now I had some kind of experience of how to to jump it. So I crossed the fence, I hitchhiked. A guy gave me a lift until Maleland. There I made a reverse call to my boss, and I said, boss, I've been beaten up and I need some medical help. Boss said, borrow some money wherever you are, take a taxi to Nelspruit. When you're in Nelspruit, phone me, I'll organize the doctor for you. Go to Nelspruit, I phoned my boss, gave me the doctor's address and stuff like that. I went there, and the doctor said that nothing was broken, although I had a lot of bruises. So he said, but you're fortunate, nothing is broken. So I phoned the boss. I said, boss, the doctor said nothing is broken, and I'll be fine. And the boss said, oh, okay. By the way, you know Colin Chauke has been arrested, and there's a press conference at 3 p.m. today, and you're the only one down in Nelspruit. So, which became a blessing in disguise, you know. I go to the press conference, all the police guys who are there, they know me, they're like, why are these bruises? What's happening? What happened? So I explained to them, I know John Puna beat me up. Oh, they said, okay, after this press conference, we're gonna go and hunt him down. So after the press conference, jumped into the car with the police, went around looking for this guy. He was nowhere to be found. Went to about 6 of his houses, he was not there. But police managed to find out some of the guys that I crossed the border with, you know. and rescue them from this guy. But he was nowhere to be found. And my boss arrived that same night, and then she said, this woman said, no, I want to go face to face with this guy, and I want to ask him, why did he do this to you? So the following morning we started again, because now we knew the house. We started going back to those houses, hunting for this guy. Me, my boss, and a photographer. So we don't find him anywhere until we go to the main house, and I'm still shaking and I'm scared of this guy because really. So I'm sitting in the car. My boss went inside the house. He went inside and spoke to the guy's wife. She was sitting under the tree outside having lunch or something like that. So my boss said, no, I'm a farmer, I'm here to buy some laborers from your husband in Oasis. The woman said, no, he's gone to Eastern Cape to go and drop off some of the guys, And my boss said, no, I've been dealing with him over the phone and I don't even know how he looks like. So the wife said, no, go to the house, in the dining room, you'll see a big photo of him. So boss goes to the house, sees the photo, she takes it out from the wall, smuggle it out through the window. I'm sitting in the car, we take a photo of the photo and put the photo back on the wall. Then we ran the story with the photo of the guy. So this is the guy, who's doing all these bad things. And police started looking for him, and he was arrested in Secunda, where he tried to sell, I think it's a 15-year-old boy, disabled boy, to his own father, because boy was disabled, no farmer wanted to take him. So he decided to trace this guy's father, who happened to be working somewhere in Secunda, and then he tried to sell him to recover his costs. That's what he said. And the father said, but I don't have money. Come off and then I'll have the money to buy my son from you. So as he was driving out with the boy, the father phoned the police, gave them this description of the car, and they set up a roadblock and they arrested him. He was sentenced to 25 years in jail.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.